5, but then we're going to move over to the restaurant in the bar and do some further toasting of our special guests who come to visit us. So as you can tell, one of the things that's really great about this topic of Bitcoin, it turns out to be about everything, right? It's about human life itself. It involves so many different talents and people. So we have cryptography experts, economists, merchants, philosophers. It's a way of kind of extracting all this massive human energy and pouring it into constructive things that build a beautiful future. I was just telling somebody outside, what did I want out of this conference more than anything else? Well, for me, my peeps are those people who are concerned about human liberty. That's what I care about most of all, human flourishing and human liberty. So, there's plenty of horrible things going on in the world today, and you know that if you read the newspapers, right? But there's also a lot of beautiful, constructive things happening. And to me, this conference is about highlighting those beautiful, constructive things and building a new world. I'm very worried about the psychological health of people who consider themselves libertarians, because there's so much depressing stuff out there. I think this conference has illustrated that there's another side to the story. And I love the fact that most of our speakers here have been deeply engaged in doing these productive pursuits. So, the next people I'd like to invite up also play a very important role in the division of labor. So we can add, in addition to all those people I listed, also travelers and newlyweds. They made a lot of headlines earlier this year by agreeing to live off Bitcoins exclusively. This is why you postponed your wedding until like the summer of 2013, right? Austin and Becky, that was the whole. Because if you'd done this last year, there would have been no hope whatsoever. We would have found you in a ditch somewhere, starving. But because they just timed it just right, so that the infrastructure is developed enough, they've been living off Bitcoins for a while, and now they're here to tell us their story. So let me invite you up. Now, Austin and Becky, great.
We are Austin and Becky Craig. I'm Austin. We brought a presentation. Could we set that up? A little bit about our story. Jeff was talking about delaying what we're doing. We didn't even meet all that long ago. A year ago today, we did not know each other. So it was a pretty quick dating, courtship, and marriage. But we met each other and it just went really swimmingly well.
Pretty well.
On the blind date. So we owe that friend a lot for setting us up. Yep. I've been interested in Bitcoin for a couple of years and I've been reading about it, but I'm not a cryptographer, I'm not an economist, I am not a coder even. I don't know HTML at all. My background is in video production, and so I've been interested in this, and I understood it conceptually, but I had no way to engage with it. And I have a chat log from 2 years ago where I'm talking to a friend of mine who's much more technically capable, and I said, all right, I want to build a miner. How do I do that? And he said, oh man, good luck. I tried, and it was beyond me. I was like, dang it. There's no way I can do that then. If my buddy Rob can't do it, there's not a chance I'll be able to figure it out. And so I just sat on this interest and continued to read about it. But when the price of Bitcoin surged last spring, I just couldn't stop thinking about anything else. And in some discussions with some other friends, the idea for this experiment came up. What if you just lived on it? So that's what we've been doing. We decided to do this documentary. Here's some of the obstacles that we've encountered. We decided when we were going to live on absolutely everything on Bitcoin, we needed to figure out the essentials. We needed to figure out our phone and a data plan first and foremost. If we didn't have a digital interface for our digital currency, we couldn't do anything else. So that was the first thing we needed to figure out. Gas was an essential thing because we couldn't get anywhere if we didn't have gas. You can't be destitute, isolated, and actually do anything.
I have a full-time job, so I really needed gas in my car.
Groceries, obviously we have to eat, rent. We were already living in a place and we weren't talking to anybody beforehand, so we're going to have to persuade our landlord as soon as we started, hi, your next payment is going to be coming in cryptocurrency. And we had to figure out insurance. And then once we figure out the essentials, we wanted to figure out how we could live life fully, not just like scraping by with the essentials, but how could we live life and enjoy ourselves, and how can we live life after we figure that out and we're comfortable at home. Can we move on beyond home? Can we go away from home? Can we go on a trip? Can we go someplace else and still make this work? So that's kind of the objective of our experiment and going to be the focus of our film. The phone, first and foremost, was easy to do. Bitnet.net, got a Galaxy S4, done. Service was a little bit more of a challenge. I ended up meeting with somebody at the AT&T store to buy the plan from them. This was after 2 weeks of trying to chase down a phone plan payable in Bitcoin, and we had some mobile virtual network operators that were very open to discussing the idea, and their marketing department liked it, but they had to get approval from the executives, and after 2 weeks of trying to negotiate that, I was just like, I can't do anything else. We need to get a phone if we're going to progress in this and not run out of groceries and gas first. So that was like the lowest common way we could do it and still fall within the rules of our experiment.
Yeah, I think up until the point you have an actual phone with data on it, you felt like you were going to businesses and saying, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? Oh, you should Google it, and we should talk after you Google it.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Look it up on Wikipedia. I can't show it to you. Gas and groceries were the next biggest obstacles, and these were critical, right? Like, we had a little food in our pantry. We had a local farm that was selling us like greens, arugula, and spinach, but we didn't have gas and groceries when we started. So unless we wanted to live exclusively on green leaves and ride our bike everywhere, we had to figure this out. Well, thank goodness Ferb got a hold of us. Comrade Ferb Furbish, a Bitcoin enthusiast in Salt Lake, who got in touch with us via our Facebook page. He works at the ConocoPhillips west of Salt Lake International Airport, 50 minutes north of where we live. And he said, hey, I work at the gas station, I can sell you gas if you come to where I work. He worked graveyard shift on weekends. So, for 3 weeks we were driving up on the weekend at midnight on Friday to fill up an hour north of where we live.
So when you get married, you should keep dating. So, we were dating, we were going on dates to visit.
Friday night date.
Yeah.
To the gas station. West of the airport, in the middle of nowhere, like right off the side of the Bonneville Salt Flats, literally a wasteland. But Ferb was there, and Ferb was awesome. Ferb took good care of us. We went to the gas station, and he set us up. He kind of opened the pump. We pumped up what we needed. We had a couple of gas cans that somebody who, knowing what we were doing, gave us for our wedding reception. Gave us gas cans. So we filled up my truck, we filled up the gas cans, and we went and paid for, like I said, we were in the middle of a wasteland. So service wasn't great. So I couldn't access my Coinbase account.
Our phones were both almost dead.
Yeah. So no access to a network, and phones almost dead, so we couldn't even try. Thankfully, we brought some Casacious coins, and we paid him with these Casacious coins, which he had never seen before. He was super happy to have, which, hallelujah, those have saved us at least once. We'll be taking those on our longer trips. The grocery store, Lolo's Wholesale, or Fresh Food Warehouse. This is actually part of a larger chain. We got in touch with the executives there. And one of the executives said, hey, listen, we like to support local endeavors. What you guys are doing sounds really cool, and I have no particular love for the credit card companies. So if you're telling me you have something that costs less than that, great, let's work out a deal. They gave us a charge account. We go through the cash, we go to the cashier, check out, and they put everything on a charge account, and then we pay that off with Bitcoin from home. And we know that we're the only ones using a charge account at that store.
Because we have to tell everybody how to ring us up.
Yeah, they've never done a charge account before, so we said, oh, you just press this button here, and then you print out 2 copies, and you give us. It's funny because they're the employees. So this was the first time we went grocery shopping while on the experiment. This is one of the managers there saying, all right, here's your charge account, and go to town, have fun, buy what you want. So this was the first time we'd been grocery shopping in at least 3 weeks.
It was so fun.
Yeah. And Becky immediately was like, hey, we could buy this, or any of these things.
I missed fruit. Sorry.
Yeah, we didn't have fresh fruit for a while. Rent and insurance. Almost any merchant that we approached during this experiment could just say, no, not interested, thank you, goodbye. Our landlord didn't have that option because we were already living in his house. We'd signed a contract, and we had been good tenants. I'd been living in this house for several months before we got married. And so, what are his options, really? This is a conversation I had with our landlord, Justin, whom we've never met. He lives in a town an hour and a half north of us. And he did not want to do it. He was not real into it.
He was not happy with us.
The one thing I've learned about Justin is he does not want to be hassled, and this sounded like hassle to him. But what we were banking on is he has the hassle of either setting up a Bitcoin wallet, which I can show him how to do very easily, or he has the hassle of evicting otherwise very good tenants, which can take months and is a very painful process for a landlord. So he actually said, like, I'd rather just wait 3 months and collect rent from you on the back end of this thing. I'm like, sorry, I'm going to send you Bitcoin now. So we got his email and we sent it to him via Coinbase, and I'm sure he rolled his eyes and was like, all right, fine.
We did offer, we were paying a 10% premium.
And mowing the lawn.
For him to not hate us. So,
yeah. So it was a bit of a negotiation process. It took 2 weeks back and forth with Justin for him to finally be like, all right, I'll accept Bitcoin. He set up a new bank account because he doesn't understand it enough and didn't want it to touch any of his existing finances. Insurance actually would have been really easy because Beauchamp McSpadden in Indiana already accepts Bitcoin. They weren't licensed to do business in Utah, but they filed some paperwork and that was great. The only challenge was my driving record, which is not great. These are from during our experiment. I've been pulled over and ticketed twice since we started. I also bumped this car in the parking lot. And this guy was just pleased as punch that he was going to be in a movie. Didn't even care. And this is when our car broke down. So we've had some auto trouble, but insurance itself was pretty doable because we found somebody who was already into Bitcoin and was already advertising that. Thank you, reddit.com/ the Bitcoin subreddit is where we found this. A normal life, right? We found a way to take care of most of the essentials within the first month. One way or another, we found a way to take care of gas, rent, groceries, insurance. What other things can we figure out? We've been knocking down a lot of doors in our home neighborhood of Provo, Utah. We have a bike repair shop who's like really anxious to take it. We got the live theater like music venue to accept Bitcoin. We found several restaurants who are totally into it. So now we're not just having burritos 3 meals a day, every day, which is what we were doing a lot when we started. This is at a local kind of high-end gourmet Navajo food place in Provo, which is amazing, and I don't know why I didn't approach them earlier, because when we went in there and talked to them, we said, hi, we're doing a documentary film, we use cash credit or debit, we're using Bitcoin. And they're like, oh yeah, we've been thinking about accepting that, it would be really cool. You think we should set it up? And we're like, yes! You are light years ahead of everyone else. And a week later, they had it set up, and we did a BitMob. We brought 24 people from the area who were into Bitcoin, and some of them were just curious and wanted to know more about it and had never spent Bitcoin. Some of them showed up not having a wallet, but we set them up, sold them Bitcoin on the spot, and we all paid in Bitcoin. And they're set up on BitPay now, Black Sheep Cafe is, and all their cashiers know how to do it because they had a torrent of people that night using it.
Yeah, if you guys want to get a restaurant where you live to accept Bitcoin, go and talk to them about a BitMob. Go and talk to them about
Yeah, get your local community together, bring everyone in, and let them know a week ahead of time, hey, we're going to be coming with a whole bunch of people paying in Bitcoin, here's how it works, let me walk you through, put $100 down on the table and say, here's an upfront payment, just so you're not thinking we're trying to scam you or anything. They'll play along if you find the right merchant. When we started, this was the only restaurant that accepted Bitcoin. It's, again, in Salt Lake, in Utah. It was an hour north of us. It's a barbecue joint. We had a lot of barbecue when we started this. We've been getting more gas stations. We went to the Bees Brothers in Logan, Utah, 2 hours north of us. Bees Brothers is a family that keep bees, and the kids are selling honey products.
They're brave.
And they're little. How old are they?
They're little. Like 8 to 14.
Yeah. And they're doing a booming business in honey, all payable in Bitcoin. They get orders from around the world. So life is normalizing in a lot of ways, which presents another challenge. What else can we do with Bitcoin? And this is where our trip comes in. Flying here was kind of a preliminary trip for us because a week from now, we're going to depart on a road trip, driving from Utah to New York City, only on Bitcoin. And if you're saying, how are you going to do that? That's a good question, because we don't totally know yet. The plan is we're going to contact as many establishments along the way and try to work out directly with merchants, but barring that, we're going to have to meet up with people along the way to help with the transaction. similar to how the phone went, because gas stations at home, gas stations were the biggest obstacle. They're all owned by an enormous oil company chain, and most people working at the gas station don't even have the authority to say yes or no, to even have that conversation. Gas stations have been extremely challenging, so how we're going to do that on travel is going to be difficult, but I think we'll pull it off. So driving across the country, meeting up with members of the Bitcoin community, meeting up with other experts relative to cryptography or economics. We're hoping to meet up with some academics in Chicago who can speak to us about the economy, about the history of currency, and we were able to book a lot of our travel for the next leg through Simply Travel, one of our sponsors. Simply Travel is in Germany. They were considering accepting Bitcoin. They got in contact with us. They're now opening that up to anybody. Anybody can book hotels and flights through Simply Travel, payable in Bitcoin.
300,000 hotels, right?
Mm-hmm. And that is what made the next leg of our trip possible. Not just driving across the country to New York, but flying across an ocean. From New York, after we do a little bit of sightseeing and some interviewing with relevant experts and community members in New York, we're going to cross an ocean to Stockholm. That's where our premier sponsor, KNC Miner, is. They made this film possible. Our experiment is something that we're taking care of. The film, we needed to hire a film crew. And that's not cheap. So KNC Miner made that possible. We're flying out there to see their operation, then going to Berlin, where there's a very active Bitcoin community in the Kreuzberg neighborhood, and from there we're going to Singapore. Singapore is a financial hub with a lot of investment banking executives there and offices, and Bitcoin is something that can disrupt global finance. I want to find out what they think about all this. There are members of the community there too, from the Bitcoin community, who reached out to us and said, listen, you should come to Singapore, here's why. So, with those three lined up, our plan is to go around the world on Bitcoin and end our trip as we're headed back from Singapore. It's going to be a challenge, but I think we can pull it off, and thanks to KNC Miner, who's actually here today. Alex from KNC Miner flew in from Stockholm. Alex brought a Jupiter miner, one of their very first to roll off the line, and he's been testing it last night and today, and I think I just saw it churning out at 668 gigahash per second. It's set up right here. We're not going to be in this room. We have to vacate this room pretty quickly after we're done speaking, but you've got just a second to glance at this beautiful piece of machinery over here that will be part of our film as well. And that's us.
Yep.
Do you have any questions? Or critical feedback?
Don't you register like on Bitcoin.com? They take Bitcoin.
We registered that prior to launching our crowdfunding campaign. So we paid for that in regular old US fiat dollars.
Cool.